Welcome back, everyone. So what we have right now is the MATLAB command window interface. So whenever you install MATLAB, as soon as you turn it on, it should show this exact same window. Now, for some of you, you might actually have another box inside called the editor, right? So that's usually what I don't like. No, that's personal preference wise. I like to have my editor undocked in a separate screen so that using Windows 10, I can snap the um, command window to the left half of my monitor, and then the script editor to the right half of my window. So that's my preference. You don't have to follow that, but that is what you will notice whenever I go through these example lectures. That being said, though, if you look at this right now, I have the command window entirely taking up half of my screen, right? So there's a vertical screen that's taking up pretty much everything that I'm showing here. On the left side, we have the current folder. You can see I have a lot of lectures prepared for this class, but right now we're just going to be working on lecture one. We're going to have a bunch of little topics, a bunch of little files here. If depending on whether you have in your folder, you could have no files, or you could have other files that exists inside that folder. Doesn't matter. What you need to know in the future is that your MATLAB script needs to be located in a specific folder for it to be linked to other functions. We're not there yet, so don't worry. Just know at this point how to navigate to whatever folder that you're looking at here, right? So what I'm looking at here is my Google Drive folder, where I have a folder called My Lecture, and inside of it, I have a folder called MATLAB, where I have all of my MATLAB folders or MATLAB files. All right, so on top, obviously, we can see the toolbar. Every software pretty much have this, right? The top bar is your toolbar. You have your home button, your plots, all those things. We pretty much won't use much or almost any of it. There's a new script button that we will use fairly often whenever we want to write a new script. That's what we will do. And then on the right side, we have workspace. Now, workspace is where all of your calculated numbers will actually show up so that you can use it to double check your calculations and make sure that whatever you're working on is correct. So that being the case, you can see here our command window is actually sort of the core of our numeric algorithm or numeric output. So if I wanted to just use MATLAB like a calculator and I say I want to calculate what is 5 plus 7, right? We just type in 5 plus 7, and then we press the enter, and we get the answer for 5 plus 7 is 12. And then you can see on the right-hand side in the workspace, we have the variable a and s, which is a reserved MATLAB variable for answer, and that variable has an answer of, or has a value of 12. Right, so that's very straightforward. We'll talk a little bit in the future about how to utilize this command window and utilize numeric algorithms in detail. A little bit more about more complex algorithm. But now let us look into what happened when you click on New Script. Now, if you have just installed MATLAB, if you click on New Script, right above your command window, there will be a box called the editor where something will show up. But because I have a different preference set, I have the actual editor undocked. You can do the same preference if you just right click on your editor and then just click on undock all. Right, so you can see here you can undock, or well, mine says undock, but yours might say dock if you want it to be docked inside your command window. I don't like that way. I like to have them separate, as I mentioned. So what I show here is a typical script, right? Your MATLAB script is something that you write to have the software, the MATLAB software, run the entire set of code at once and then output the results of. As we mentioned in our last set of lecture, we talked about how MATLAB is a interpreted language. So that what that means is we are going to have the MATLAB software interpret this entire script and then basically operate it line by line by line and get the result of it at the end and show that on our command window. All right, so right now, you probably notice there's a bunch of little green lines, right? What does the green line mean? So there's also something that I kind of mentioned already. It's called a comment. So in script writing, in every single programming language, there's a function called, or rather, there's a capability called comment, such that it is reserved for programmers to read. It is reserved for people who are either reading the code or typing the code to read. So you and I, we will be able to read these comments, but as the interpreter or the compiler is reading this code, it's going to skip every single line that has a common indicator. Now, that indicator is actually different for every language, for most languages, I should say. And in MATLAB, the indicator is the percent sign. So you can see whenever we have a percent sign, uh, that means this everything after the percent sign within this one line are considered comments. So once I create 1% sign, everything else afterwards are all comments until I go to the very next line. But because my very next line is also starting with a percent sign, everything afterwards is everything afterwards are comments again. And then this whole top 6 lines are all comments. So basically, whenever we have the compiler or the interpreter run, it's going to skip all 6 of these lines. And this is what I like to have in my script as a header. Now, there are no sort of standardization for what you should have in your code header. And I'm not going to require that you have your header in this exact same way that I have. But I will require that every single one of your assignment does have a header. You can have whatever kind of header you like, but it needs to show, homework, assignment 1, or whatever the case, your first name, last name, and your school ID that we can use to identify you, things of that nature. All right, so here you can see this is my header. This is lecture 1, coding example, and this is an introduction to script writing. And the author is, of course, me. All right, so that's what the header is for every single one of your script. Now, under your header, and it doesn't have to be directly under it, and it doesn't always have to be under the header. What under the header here, what I have is a double percent sign. Whenever you have 2% sign, no less, no more in MATLAB, what that means is this is a section break. So a section break is just like a advanced common indicator. That doesn't mean anything, or it doesn't mean anything different from the single percent sign in terms of script running. So it's still a comment. But what happened in MATLAB in your script editor is that if you have 2% sign, what you generate is a break in the script editor. So you can see it generates a horizontal line so that it is easier for us as we're writing to be able to separate those sections. That's pretty much it, right? It's just sort of an ease of accessibility for the programmer. Other than that, there's no other points, right? So it's just there to be able to see more clearly. And I like to use that, and I use it fairly liberally in all of my examples, as you will see later on. All right, so with these 2% sign, so I have a section break. And this section I call clear cache. So clear cache, what that means is that whenever you're running a code, MATLAB does not automatically clear whatever it has in its memory. So if we go back to our command window, you notice that our workspace ANS is equal to 12, right? So if I don't have clear cache, this ANS equal to 12 will show up whenever I run my next set of script or code or program. Now, I don't want that to happen, so I always want to clear whatever was calculated before. And it's especially important when I'm trying to grade a bunch of assignments because, well, you might have a variable that's equal to this value, and someone else may have the same name for that variable equal to another value, and sometimes they will be contradictory, especially if you forgot to assign a proper variable and it just so happens that your code try to pull a variable from someone else's code. We never want that to happen. So every single one of our script should start with the clear cache statements. And the clear cache statements are the following, right? We have clear all, close all, and CLC. Now, technically in the beginning, you don't need all of these. So let me tell you what each of those means. So clear all means that we're clearing everything in the workspace. So that one you most definitely need, right? So that means we clear all the variable, all the stored numbers and things of that nature. And the second one is close all. Now, previous or in the beginning, we don't need close all, because what close all does is that it closes any extraneous figures or plots that you may have open to help visualization. In the future, we're going to need that. So as a precaution and to build a better habit, we just want you to have clear all, close all, every single code. And in addition to that, also have CLC. Now, CLC stands for, I forgot what CLC stands for, but what it does is that it clears all of your command window. Right, so it clears anything that you type in the command window. It doesn't clear your history, but it just wipes your command window white and shift everything up so that you can't see it. And that way, the command window won't be cluttered with a bunch of typed commands for trial and error that you've done before. All right, so if we check here, if we type clear all, you see that our workspace went away, right? The ANS equals to 12, that just went away. If I type close all, it won't do anything because we don't have any figures open. And finally, if I type CLC, now what it will do is it will clear my command window, right? And it's just blank. But it doesn't actually delete any sort of memory from your history. What it does is it pushes everything outside of view so that it does not clutter up your screen. You can always navigate to what you've typed before by using the up arrow on your keyboard, right? If I type up, the previous one I used was CLC. So I can go all the way up and type 5 plus 7 and get 12. So that is how we can get clear cache to work in conjunction with our command window so that it does not clutter the command window. It does not interfere with previously calculated numeric values or numeric variables. All right, so that's basically the introduction of the MATLAB interface that I wanted to give. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about how to deal with input and output for MATLAB.